Hey everyone, welcome to Impact Training. So glad that y'all are here. This week is special. I'm sure y'all have noticed that we have 3 guys sitting up front here, and they're going to be speaking about half the time. We're going to interview them and ask them a little bit about their ministries that they've started and pioneered. And then the second half, I'll be teaching a helpful tool that applies to what these guys are talking about. And so I want to introduce them to y'all. We have Austin Byboth, and this is Austin. He's a sophomore and a part of the ROTC group and is a resident at Lipscomb Hall. This is Dan Ty and his friend Asher Fraley. Awesome. And they're part of the architecture Bible study that they both started, and they're both architecture students. And juniors, right? Seniors. Okay. Awesome. Cool. And yeah, I'm just going to ask them a few questions, and then after I'm done, we'll open up for y'all to ask them some questions as well. Can y'all share just a little bit about how y'all decided to start a Bible study? I know that y'all came, your first year at UTA is when y'all decided to start a Bible study. So what did that look like? What was y'all's vision? How did y'all decide that a Bible study was something you wanted to start among the architecture students?
Yeah, so I think first year we probably had the idea because we came to college here together. We had friends from I don't even know when, but we didn't act on that conviction until sophomore year for sure.
I think we kind of realized that there was just a huge need in the architecture community. You know, being in there, you get to make friends with people, and you see them like 60 hours a week sometimes. Like, it's crazy how long you're with these people. And so, you spend that much time with someone, and you get to know them pretty quick. So we could just kind of tell, like, man, the community here is like super secular. Like, this is a crazy opportunity for a harvest. So maybe we do something with that, Maybe we start a Bible study and start evangelizing to the classmates and things. Yeah.
And I mean, a little background on us. We were both homeschooled, and we grew up in these little Christian bubbles. And so coming to UTA was kind of this eye-opening experience. But sorry if I can tack one more thing onto that. The whole like genesis of of like when we decided to do this, that like moment where like, when we decided like, hey, we should start Bible study, was literally Asher was sitting on the couch. I couldn't even remember this in full detail when I was talking to you, but Asher relayed it back to me. And I think it was him, might have been me, probably him, was just like, Dan, we should start a Bible study. And I was like, we should do that. Yeah. And that just kind of stuck with us until eventually it became a thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I remember you sharing with me, I asked you, were you afraid to start a Bible study? What were your concerns? I think both of y'all, you said that you grew up in a homeschool community. You came to UTA. I would think, like, I don't know, maybe homeschoolers would be afraid of starting a Bible study in a really secular environment. Did you have any fears of, like, maybe no one's going to come, maybe y'all won't be relatable? What were your fears, and what were your concerns? And then what did y'all see God do in and through that? I remember you shared some interesting stuff with me.
Yeah. Do you want to? Okay. Yeah. So, oh goodness. So what were like our fears and concerns? I think we just kind of sat down and we were like, well, what's the worst that's going to happen? Dan and I are going to just sit in our apartment and open up the Bible and get into that. Like, that's still a win in my book. So it's kind of like, if people come, then that's awesome. And if they don't come, we're still going to praise God. So it's not really us doing this, it's just God doing this through us. So that kind of takes a lot of the pressure off.
But there was a very real fear, especially coming from a little bubble where I didn't have a lot of, wasn't in high school where I see a ton of people every day. I had to have very few friends. And I think we had this fear that like we might immediately ostracize ourselves from our friends. And that right off the bat, if we start inviting people to Bible study, people would be like, oh, those are the Christians. And we would kind of disengage ourselves from this community. And the architecture major is a community atmosphere. And so that was a very real concern, but one that at the end of the day, we're like, no, we should do this anyway.
That's awesome. Cool. I'm going to shift things over to Austin. Austin, can you share just a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your spiritual background, what kind of church you grew up in, where you grew up, and then how you and Caleb decided y'all wanted to start a Bible study? Because that just happened, was it last semester or last August?
Last semester.
Last semester. Pretty recent, and it's still going on right now in a dorm in Lipscomb. Can you just share a little bit about your background, how y'all decided to start a Bible study?
Okay. Excuse me. So I'm a Spanish major here at UTA. I grew up I've been going to the same church my entire life, right? So 19 years. I'm, I guess, a church elder if you think about it. No, but so I went to public school, so there wasn't a super as defined, right, as a bubble, but there was certainly a bubble of expectations, right, for how people my age in the faith behave. So coming to UTA and meeting people, I think like Caleb, meeting Caleb, his name is Garcia. So meeting Garcia, we have similar backgrounds, right? So I think we had the conviction to start the like you guys were talking about, right? It's a community. I didn't realize how many similarities there were between architecture and ROTC. Like it's just like you spend too much time with these heathens, and then it's like they all you all know each other very well. So I think it's a unique opportunity for the Bible study, and it weighs on your heart. So that's why we started it, right? And in the dorm, it's honestly, it was pretty easy to run. We were blessed. One of our instructors was very supportive, so he got us in touch with an ROTC ministry that this group Crew Ministries does, and so they come up with these like custom tailored Bible studies for us, because it's like we're like, I guess, kind of weird people, right? And so you have to kind of word it differently sometimes. So yeah. Does that answer your question? I hope I didn't get too far off topic.
That's great. When I was talking with Caleb earlier this week or last week, he was just sharing a little bit about, y'all are a little different. They're homeschooled, came to know Christ, younger ages, awesome people. And then I don't know a ton about exactly when you came to know Christ, but I know Caleb came to know Christ a little bit later, a little rougher background, and he said that just coming to UTA, he really needed community in order to survive. New believer, needed community. And I was just curious for someone like that, and I don't know if you have somewhat similar of a background of him, but was there something that you struggled with that was difficult for you, as you were thinking, okay, I want to start a Bible study, but I haven't really gone to a ton of Bible studies. I'm not sure what these guys would think of me. Just what are some of your thoughts or concerns or worries when y'all were starting up this Bible study?
So both Caleb and I had grown up in the church, but I don't think our faith became real to us until about the same time, kind of in high school, right? That's when you start seeing things. So when we felt we needed to start this Bible study, some of the concerns were attendance, like y'all were talking about, if sitting around with just the two of you in a room in the Bible, and kind of how people would think about it, right? Honestly, it's the same kind of story, but okay, it's our band, right? Yeah. So yeah, I think there's a lot of
That's good. That's good. Yeah, and then tell us, so I'll ask you first and I'll switch over to them. What did the Bible study look like? How many people were coming? What were the people like that were coming? Where were y'all meeting? Why did y'all decide to meet there?
Okay, so originally we were in Trinity, right? Because that's where the university stuck us, because it was old. And we would invite Trinity residents and ROTC cadets outside of Trinity to come and worship with us on Mondays, I think, in the lobby. So we had a really public space where people saw us doing our weird Christian thing, and we had a lot of people coming. Honestly, we had like 20 people and stuff would come to this Bible study, and this year it's changed a little bit. There's significantly less people. There's a lot less community at Lipscomb, because I think I don't know what's up. It's a weird dorm. There's no community, so we have to invite people more, right? There's a lot less attendance. I think we've had 1 or 2 Lipscomb residents, so. I think it's going to change like that regularly, from location to location. So that's what it looks like.
Nice. And y'all are meeting in the Lipscomb Lounge, just downstairs. And y'all meet Monday nights, is that right? Okay, cool. Yeah, I know that for a while, ROTC students had to stay, or a lot of them were staying in the Trinity Res Hall, and they switched that over to Lipscomb. So I don't know if some of attendance has to do with, there's just a new group meeting in a new dorm. Chemistry is just a little different.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of residents meeting with us anymore, so it's a little bit different. We've changed kind of how the Bible study looks to reflect that.
Cool. Caleb was sharing with me something about like the locks are different at Trinity. And so something about how like, I don't know if this is really safe, but y'all did it. You would unlock your doors, like everyone keep their doors unlocked. And so Caleb would just run down the halls. I'm guessing maybe you did too. Just open up doors and yell, "We're having Bible study," and like jump in on each other, like on each other's beds or something. And you can't do that at Lipscomb. The locks are different.
Locks at Lipscomb, right? And at Trinity, it's just unlocked doors. Like, you can lock them if you're weird, but so we would just walk into people's rooms and tell them to come to Bible study, but you can't do that anymore. So I think, it's harder, because people have to remember it. You can't just like open the door and be like, "Hey dude, wake up, Bible study." And they're like, "I'm not even a Christian."
Yeah. I like how you said, the Bible study is really big when it got started at Trinity. It was like 20-something people. And then you're like, oh, it's a lot smaller. And there was like 7 or 8 people Monday. I was like, sounds like a lot of people. Caleb showed me a picture.
That's the
There's 7 8.
It's usually like 4 to 6.
Okay.
Honestly.
Nice. Awesome. What about y'all? How did y'all decide where y'all would meet? How did you first invite people? What did it look like on a typical, I think, is it Friday or Saturday night?
Yeah. Saturday and then Friday.
Yeah. What did y'all do on a typical night? What were the people like that were coming? What kinds of questions were they asking?
Yeah, so we started out at me and Asher's apartment, which was like 15 minutes away from campus. And we started on Saturday nights because you can't get an architecture student to do anything on any other night. If you ever try and invite them somewhere, just weeknights are terrible for us. But Fridays or Saturdays were okay. And I think in terms of inviting people, we had already, by that point, we'd met people we were like, I'm pretty sure they'd come. So we invited them, and those sorts of people came. And then there was a lot of other people we just sort of invited as like, why not?
Yeah. That's kind of, again, part of the good part about this is that, we just spent so much time with everyone that we had everyone's numbers. And we could just text like 40 people. Not 40, like some amount of people and be like, "Hey, come to Bible study, like right now." And, again, though, I think part of the question was like, what did we do when we were there stuff? Yeah. What did a typical night look like? So by the end of the week, we are flat out exhausted. Probably like a lot of you guys are too, to be honest. But, we've put in like some crazy amount of hours in the studio cutting up small pieces of wood with sharp knives and things like that. And like no one is like, "Wow, I feel like in a mood to just go and meet some new people right now." Yeah. Like, who does that? So, well, I guess extroverts do that. But that's not Dan or I. But I think we kind of countered that by saying we will make an entire 7-course home-cooked meal for you guys. And truth be told, it actually was like kind of crazy a little bit. We would just have so much fun in the kitchen, making this like fajitas or something, and none of us know how to cook, so we're like totally butchering it. But it's just a great opportunity. People come over and they're like, "Wow, like smoke's coming out their window. Like, I don't know if this is the right place. Are these Christians?" Like, but you go inside and, immediately you can invite them and be like, "Hey man, come on into the kitchen. Like, get in here. Can you take control of the potatoes, bro? I got to go do something else." And it's just a great kind of like relational thing. And then immediately these people that maybe, you don't see a lot outside of school, they feel at home right here, just almost instantly. So you pull them in and then, we would just start. We just get down on the living room floor. We only had like a couch and a broken chair. So most of the people just sat on the ground, and we would just open up and get into the Word, start talking, and people would have questions. Do you want to talk a little bit about like kind of the diversity of the group that we had?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we? I mean, we're maybe a little bit past your question, but yeah. So I mean, it really we had a wide range of people that would come on a typical night, and like Asher was saying, it was really fun to cook together because some people would come. Yeah, there we go. We got some food. That's my wife actually, and another girl, and they're praying together, and you can see the tables full of tacos and stuff. This was at me and Asher's where we started. It was the venue.
Meadowbrook.
It's off East Chase. If you're on driving down I-30, you'll pass it. It'll be on your right. Yeah. And so we'd have like people come from all different spiritual backgrounds. Like some people would be on fire and you just couldn't even get them to shut up during Bible study. Yeah. Some people would have like 1,000,001 questions and you'd be like, I've never encountered that question before. Like, and so it was very hard to negotiate like a lot of different backgrounds. There we are. We eventually, so we moved to these two girls who are awesome, on fire for Jesus, had an apartment right next to the architecture building. And so they offered us their home after a while because a lot of people told us they couldn't come because they didn't want to drive all the way out there. So that's when we started meeting here. We ended up having a lot more people come when we could meet on campus. That helped a lot. Yeah.
Cool. What has the journey been like for your students? So y'all started how many years ago, this Bible study?
It's been over a year and a half.
A year and a half.
Third year.
Cool.
This is our fourth semester to do Bible study.
Yeah.
Fourth semester.
That's true, yeah.
From the first semester till, I think y'all studied James, and then was it Romans afterwards? What has the journey been like for your students? Have you seen a shift in questions, a shift in curiosity? Have you seen like your trust being built with some of them over time? What are your students like? What have they, or your peers, are like? What kind of questions that they ask, and where do you think they are now on their spiritual journey?
Well, so I mean, me and Asher, we never really had a Bible study leader to begin with, but we don't even lead the Bible study anymore. It's actually this guy named Manuel. And when he started coming, he didn't even come for the first semester because he didn't really want to get involved in Christian stuff. And then like to watch, I know I'm picking him as an example, but like, to watch him go from like, I'm a Christian kind of in name, and now I'm a Christian, and I actually sort of believe it, and now I'm a Christian, I act on my beliefs, and now I'm a Christian, and hey, Dan and Asher, can I lead the Bible study because I really want to do that? Yeah. I think we've seen, the group has actually, it's kind of expanded and then contracted, but I know that like a lot of the people that we've been able to be with for all of these years are now like we're best friends. Yeah. And like we even started having a separate group that was just guys that would meet on a separate night, and so we got like accountability time, just architecture guys. And then there was actually just an architecture girls group that also started after a while.
Just to kind of like echo those thoughts. A lot of the people that came, in the beginning, there was maybe only like 4 or 5 just like believers that were like really passionate about this. But then now, I don't know, there's like upwards of 10. Yeah. And you just get to, it's just the coolest thing to see these people that you've just got to run with over the past few years. And, now they're coming to you and say, hey, like, what can I pray for you for? Like, what are some things that I can pray for you? And it's just like, man, that's like so cool. So cool to watch that and just see these guys and girls just get totally lit up for the gospel.
We've grown a lot too.
Yeah. Yeah, and this has been, like, we've learned a ton just from them. It's been so good.
Austin, I know that you guys spend a lot of time with the ROTC people. How much time do y'all spend together? And how have you seen that benefit or discourage like people coming to your Bible study? What has been helpful or difficult with the amount of time, unique time that you spend with these people? And how has that helped with your Bible study? Discouraged it?
Okay. So I can give you what like our day looks like, right? And like the interactions we have there. So you can kind of get the idea of our relationship. So this morning, right, we all woke up at 3:15 and we spent 4:15 to 7. We did a 10-mile ruck, right, together. And then from there, we put on a heavy backpack and we walk in our boots and try to sleep, I guess. No, but so that's a lot of time you're spending with these people, right? And they say like pain brings you together. I don't know if you say that in the real people world, but so that's a lot of face-to-face time, right? You're motivating people, you're mentoring the younger ones, right? They look up to you already. So there's that. And then later, like earlier today, I went into our cadet lounge. People just go there, and you sit there and you talk with people and you have conversations. You just grow together. And then a lot of times we go and get dinner together at the end of the day. So that's like, you can add up like the hours we just spend with each other, right? We either voluntary or involuntary. But what that in turn does is they see your life like authentically, right? So if you ever had the misfortune of hearing soldiers talk with each other, like you'll know that they're just really, like they're horrible people. So when we spend our lives together and they see who you really are, right? They see like how if you're authentic or not, and then if they believe something else, they see like, oh, he's really serious about what he believes. You can tell, right? Because you live with them. So how that's looked in our Bible study is I think we've had. Our like mission statement that we wrote is just about authenticity, right? And like real relationships with people. So we've seen people that like you wouldn't see in church, I think, because they're comfortable to be around their family, whereas they might not be comfortable to be in like a more open setting, right? So they're open up, we're honest about things, I think, more so than you can be in a bigger crowd, or maybe, would be considered inappropriate or off color to people who are just unsure,
Mm-hmm.
Does that?
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, it's interesting because what y'all have both noticed is that y'all have unique circles of influences, and you've had different places and venues to invite them to things, to invite them to Christian ministry. You've been a part of Vertical and International Night, and you notice like they're just not coming to something like that. Like you said, it's not until like Friday or Saturday is when you noticed that they could do something, which is funny because most people on a Friday or Saturday don't want to study the Bible, and they're Christians. And then non-Christians are like, yeah, I just want to hang out with y'all and do stuff with y'all. And so y'all noticed a unique time to meet with them and to be of influence among them and with them. So that's cool. And then same with you. Y'all started that Bible study in Trinity, and noticed there was like a Trinity Bible study group that was part of Vertical, part of Tuesday nights, and just not a ton were coming. Y'all decided to try it out on a Monday night, and people are coming for some reason. And then y'all also have this trust, like you said, that you've built with them. You see them all the time, and they're opening up to y'all in a way that they wouldn't open up to other people. And I think that's really cool that y'all noticed those unique circles of influences that y'all had, and y'all did something about it. What y'all decided to do is try something new to reach out to them, and started a Bible study, which is really cool. What are some challenges that y'all have faced along the way that y'all would like to share some about? I know y'all just got started like a semester ago, so I'll let you just think some about that, some challenges, and then I'll turn over to y'all. What are some challenges that y'all have faced? Something that you think that you could have done better, that you might want to even try this last year that you have with them? What would y'all like to share?
We talk about
Yeah.
what you mentioned last night.
Yeah, so just to kind of put like a dating analogy in the pot, you guys know that term in relationships, like when you start dating someone and you call it like the spark or whatever, right? And then eventually down the road, that thing goes away. And hopefully you're left with a steady burning fire. And I think in some instances, this has been going on for a little bit now, and we can look back and be like, man, there was some passion there those first few months that I don't really see a whole lot of anymore. And I think just kind of, I remember we can look back, both of us can, and we can see some conversations maybe that we had with some people, some of our classmates, where we were just really blunt with them about impressing on them the weight of eternity, like heaven and hell are real. Eternity, just really pressing in and really pushing into the gospel, like sharing the gospel with boldness. And, now I think some challenges are, though, that that can kind of fade out, and you can be almost left with like a checkbox of just like, maybe just this time maybe we just share a little, maybe I just share my testimony this time, and then next time I'll just ask them if they need prayer, and then 20 steps later, I'm going to finally get to the gospel. But I don't think it has to be like that. Like, that's living as if tomorrow is promised. And the Bible says tomorrow is not promised. So I think that was kind of a big, like a challenge that we kind of noticed, was just like, man, we got to get back to like being urgent, that sense of urgency in sharing the gospel with these people.
Yeah.
Man,
yeah. And I mean, a few practical problems faced. One, like I said, because there's such a wide range of believers, I found like a lot of times we start talking in this kind of like Christianese. Like one Bible study, we just met in the architecture building, read through the whole first chapter of John, and half the people there were not Christian. Some people there, I mean, had like 0 to 1, experience with the gospel. And in my mind, I'm like, this makes so much sense. I'm explaining the gospel. I read the gospel of John. I read the first chapter. We just explained it, and come to find out later, like probably 10% of it, really like sunk in and clicked. So, I mean, that was a challenge. But also, like Asher was saying, just like a general sense of fatigue. Like, we're in our 4th year now. There's certain people we've invited year after year after year, and I'm having a really hard time telling myself, like, you should go and invite them again. And I just find myself just not even talking about God, because I'm just like, well, I've already had that conversation with you 3 dozen times. Like, and not even that, I think I exaggerated in my own head. I'm like, oh, I've already shared the gospel with them so many times, when in reality, it's only been a couple times. But just this sense of like, I've invited you so many times. I already know you're going to say no, so why even try again? And I think that overcoming that mentality has been a real challenge recently.
Yeah. You've shared with me a few cool stories. What are a few stories that y'all would like to share of neat things that y'all saw through the Bible study?
Yeah.
Wow. Do you want to start, or do you want me to?
Yeah, sure. I think we broke this down. So, first year, we had a student who, so my wife, who was not my wife at the time, Paige, she's in some of these photos, she was at Vandergrift, and she started inviting a large portion of Vandergrift out to our Bible study. So we actually ended up having architecture majors and Vandergrift people. And one of the students at Vandergrift was not a Christian, fairly outspoken about not being a Christian. And he ended up just coming every week, enjoyed having time with us, eating food, started coming to BSM, started doing stuff with Christians. Lo and behold, like later that semester, we were able to pray with him in the architecture building, and he gave his life to Christ. Wow. So it was cool.
Man, oh goodness, I get chills just thinking about that story again. But yeah, we've got the privilege of just having a lot of cool moments, throughout this thing. I think a lot of them just kind of quickly go back to like the roots of how it started, of just like, there wasn't a whole lot of thought put into it. It was just kind of like how Dan said, we should start a Bible study, so let's do it. It's that simple. And there was just some things, it's been about a year now, I think, since Hurricane Harvey, right? Swept through the Gulf. And I remember like kind of some of the leaders of the Bible study, we were just getting together before school started, and we're like, hey, let's just like pray and figure out what, seek God and see what he wants to do this semester. And someone just like threw out, I think Dan just like threw out at the end, or maybe it was Paige, and they were just like, man, what if we like did something crazy? What if we like drove down to Rockport, like, or to the Gulf? Because, one of our friends' parents lives there, and like a ton of her family, and like tons of, The idea just kind of got tossed onto the table, and we were like, wow, that'd be so cool if we could just go down there for like a day. Man. And then I think we were like packing our bags and getting ready to leave, and Dan was like, no, wait, let's decide this right now, what we're going to do. Like, let's just set a day for it right now. And we were like, oh, wow, like if we do that, this will actually happen. And lo and behold, it actually happened because there was just a decision made. So there we are. Like 1 week later, after that night, we were just like, let's do it next Saturday. And we all walked out of that room like, we're just going to like grab a bunch of people and just drive like 7 hours out there and, just meet people and clean up and do.
We actually met at like 2 a.m., drove through the night.
Yeah.
Drove through the night the next day because people were like, well, I have too many commitments. I can't take any time.
Exactly.
It's going to only be one day. We're going to drive through the night, spend all day there, drive through the night on the way back. And
so people sacrificed. Yeah.
Wouldn't like recommend
Crazy.
it at all. It did work. The Holy Spirit was with us.
Yeah. I don't think anyone fell asleep at the wheel, but I'm not quite sure on that. But yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Austin, what about you? What are some challenges? Again, I know that it's just the second semester in that you faced. And then just what's a story that you'd like to share? Something cool you saw God do?
Well, like you said, this is our second semester. There are not a lot of challenges for us right now. We're really supported by our instructors and with like that organization, right, crew. You could think of attendance as a challenge, right? But like you were saying, right, we're not recruiters or anything. We're not trying to just like lock them down, I think we have good relationships with people. So even if it's like 4 people, I don't think it's a challenge, right? Maybe the inability to barge into people's rooms, but a really cool story. I think is really how we started, right? So Garcia and I met. We were running, and we were talking about we play the guitar and we listen to John Mayer, and we're Christians, right? That's like, those are the 3 things you establish when you meet someone, right? So we kept talking about it, and we felt like we needed to start this Bible study, so we did at Trinity, and our instructor was like, oh, hey, heard y'all started a Bible study. Well, let me get you in touch with these dudes that do all this stuff, right? Like the Valor, the crew ministries and all that. And so like, because we were just blessed that like, the Lord lined up this appointment for us, right, at the right time. So we got all sorts of help from organizations that had done it before. We got to talk with a lot of ROTC cadets that had started their own Bible studies like that. And we've been blessed with so many like resources and support from like local churches and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think it's stuff like if you're just passing like, oh yeah, gosh, I have to respond to Shane again. He emails me all the time about church. But like if you think about it, we're just so blessed. Like I don't know. It's not a big story. Nobody came to know Christ there. But like it's just I don't know. It's a miracle we've been given what we've been given.
Cool. Do you have the pictures from Caleb? Can you just run through those? Oh, they didn't come through. Okay, never mind. Sorry. Awesome. Okay, last question that I want to ask y'all is, what's really cool that y'all have both pointed out is that these Bible studies are super simple. Like y'all didn't try to make anything like too fancy. You're meeting in the lobby of a dorm. Y'all are meeting at your apartment and then pass it on to a few other girls and met in their apartment. You said something about a 7-course meal, but for the most part, the meals are pretty simple, like breakfast food, right? Because y'all said something about budget was getting a little hard to keep up with all the bacon and sausages, so pancakes became a thing.
Tacos, simple stuff.
What's encouraging for everyone here in this room, I think what would scare me is, okay, I'm going to try to start something among, my own personal influence, and you're just like thinking through, like, how much will things cost? How much will it cost to rent a room or do all these things? But everything that y'all did, for the most part, is pretty low budget. For the most part, free. And again, just really simple and reproducible. And every single person here in this room has their own unique sphere of influence, which is really cool. Architecture, ROTC. And so if you're a part of some organization, if there's something that you like to do for fun, if you have a major, if you live in a dorm, you have your own unique sphere of influence. You can look around you and you know that Kyle and Shepard don't have the exact same friend group. And And so if you don't have the same friend group, you have your own unique sphere of influence. And the question for everyone here in this room, myself included, is what are we going to do about our unique spheres of influences? Because I think about my neighbors and I think about people that I see at the rock wall. If I'm not sharing with them, if I'm not engaging with them, who will? Am I just going to pass it on to someone else? Like that is a unique circle that God has given me, and all of us have those unique spheres of influences. So what is just a word of encouragement that y'all would like to give everyone here in this room as they think about their unique spheres of influence, and as they ask God, like, what do you want me to do about this?
Yeah. Well, so I mean, going back to like the beginning of like how we decided to do it was just we were sitting around and we're just like, we should do that. And you know, hesitate here because I feel like I'm saying something false, but we never actually sat down and prayed and we're like, God, is this your will that we start a Bible study? We were just like, no, we should start a Bible study, you know? And if God's for that, like, then he'll produce fruit through that. And we've seen, you know, him work through us, and it definitely has been him. Like I look back at all the things that happened. I'm like, there's no way that was me. There's no way. If you had told me some of the things that were going to happen, I'd just be like, I could never do that, you know? And I can't, and I didn't, you know, but it was God working through us and our peers. So if I could offer one word of encouragement, it'd be like, you should do it. Like, you should start a Bible study. Like, why not? You know, I mean, I know I heard from one family that was just like, yeah, my whole goal in life is, or the newlyweds, they're like, yeah, our whole goal is to adopt a child. And we're going at it with the mentality that God wants us to adopt, and unless we hear a clear word otherwise, then we're going to adopt. Not like, oh God, maybe I'll seek your will. Maybe I should adopt. I don't know. Like, should I? It's like, no, I'm going to, unless God tells me otherwise. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think that's so good. You know, what are you going to do? Get in prayer, and like, is God going to tell you don't start a Bible study? Yeah. I mean, maybe there's like some special case, but like God says, like, go make disciples, you know, and you know, I think the encouragement that I would give is that, man, let's see if I can remember it correctly. One of my most favorite, did I say that right? Anyways, one of my favorite, like, Christian, like, inspirational quotes is, don't fear doing big things for God and failing. Fear instead doing little things for God and succeeding. And the idea behind that is that when we do little things for God, God doesn't have to show up. But when we do big things for God, you know, that goes beyond our own ability, then God's like, wow, like, they're stepping out of the boat. You know, they're putting themselves in a situation where if I'm not there, it's going to fail. And that's like the whole, like, you know, you read the last sentence of Matthew, and I love that Jesus ends the Great Commission with, you know, go and make disciples, and I'll be with you to the end of the age. The promise is that when we step out in faith, that's when God's with us. That's when we encounter the presence of God. And so, you know, all the ideas of like, I don't have the resources, I don't have the wisdom, I don't have the capability, I don't have the influence, I don't have the friends. Like, God's on your side. And if you just step out, he's going to take care of the rest.
Cool. Caleb, or Austin, sorry. Same question. What is just a word of encouragement in a sentence? How do you want to encourage the students as they're thinking about, what does God want me to do with my unique circle of influence?
Right. So I think there's like, we're really objective, right, Garcia and I. So you got to have a sphere of influence. So it's easy to not when you go to a church, because that can become your sphere of influence, but you don't do anything there. So you have to have a sphere of, like, architecture or ROTC or whatever. And then you just do it. Like they said, like, that's icy right there. It's just do it. And if there's already one, get involved with that one. Like there's no reason in dividing believers. Just get involved or start it, right? And then the third thing is be really honest, to be frank with people in college, because they're here to get their degree and to learn and to get better and to leave. So, like you were saying, the Christianese, right? Garcia and I, like we say, like, people beat around the bush with their isms and stuff, you know? Be honest with them. Use use real people English, right? Don't. If the pastor said it, you might reword it so that people understand. So.
Good word. Disclaimer, we're not associated with Nike or anything, but I'm just kidding. There's a lot of just do it coming from the stage right now. No. Hey, I just want to, what's really cool about these guys is I, really respect them because they're just faithful to do whatever God's calling them to do. Not because they're doing anything super flamboyant, super impressive. I think just the most impressive thing is just that they notice that there are people that they could reach, and they're trying something about it. It may fail, it may tank, it may not go well, and those are concerns and thoughts that they had was, it could just be you and I in a room. That's the worst that could happen is we're studying the Bible together. But at least we tried, which is really cool. And not every Bible study lasts forever. We had a Latino Christian fellowship Bible study. It's okay for it just to last for a little bit. They're just little stages, like life stages of our Bible study, and the success of a Bible study isn't that how long it lasts, how many people are coming. Are y'all just faithful to asking God, where do you want me to serve? How do you want me to serve? There are people around me who don't know Jesus. How do you want me to reach them? And then just being faithful to obeying God where he calls you to go with that. A lot of y'all are vertical leaders. And if y'all hadn't noticed, we really tried to make it as easy as possible for someone to come on a Tuesday night to know where to go. And something that we've noticed is that it could be really powerful to do ministry among the people who live with you. And so we divide by residence halls and dorms. And then we also divide by, just to keep it simple for people to know where to go, off-campus freshman, junior, sophomore, senior. And so if y'all are a part of those vertical groups, I just I encourage y'all to just continue to ask, how do we reach more people in these dorms? What are some things that we can do with people in these dorms or in these residence halls or in these apartment complexes? And then the same with the off-campus group. There are unique things about each of those groups that y'all can just come together as leaders and try to figure out, how do we reach these people better, and how do we get to the gospel to them? So anyways, these guys are awesome. Again, everything they're doing is super simple, and we want to commend God for giving them the creativity to know when to meet, how to meet, and everything like that. But can we say a huge thanks to these guys coming up on a Friday and sharing with us? So thank you all so much. Y'all are welcome to sit down. Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah. Cool. You can leave that there. Yeah, no biggie. Awesome. Okay, so we just have a few minutes left, and we're going to go through a quick activity. We just take a few of those. If you pass this back, take a few of those. Quick activity. So this next tool that we're going to go over is called the 2+ prayer card. And it's basically something that you can keep in your wallet and keep in your pocket, keep on you at all times. Some of this will look a little bit familiar, but the new thing we're going to introduce is just the idea of these thresholds that our friends will cross as they decide to follow Jesus, if God is leading them to follow Jesus. And then for us, something that we just haven't talked about as much as a ministry is identifying where these friends are on this threshold. On these different thresholds. And so we'll go through these together, and it'll be at step 3 when I go over those different thresholds. So open it up, grab a pen. The first thing that we want to talk about is just opening up your eyes and noticing who are in my unique circle of influence, sphere of influence. So let's take 2 minutes to fill out this prayer map. Write your name in the middle, and list all the non-Christians you see regularly. These could be people that you see in your classes, people that you see in your dorms. If you go to Starbucks regularly, I know I've seen a few of y'all there pretty regularly. There might be a few people that you tend to sit with or see. Who do you normally see on a regular basis? Take a few minutes to write out some names. And if you can't think of a name, you can think of a place, like the Mac. That guy with the long hair that I always see, but I've never even got to know his name or something. So think about people, think about places, and think about passions. Or it might be rock climbing is something I like to do for fun. I try to meet people and get to know their names, but sometimes I don't quite get their names, but I remember the new girl who's working there. You can write down people, places, and passions if you can't think of a name. Cool. All right, we'll move on to the next part. It says, your fields are ripe for harvest. Ask God, who are two non-Christian friends whom you want me to focus my prayer and energy on. List their names below. So pick out 2 people from that list and list their names on those boxes below. Cool. Okay, the next part, I want y'all to turn really fast. We're going to take a quick minute, and y'all just share 2 of those names and share who those people are, and then spend a few seconds in prayer. Spend 30 seconds praying over these people and asking, how do you want me to pray for them, and how might I invest in these relationships? So turn to a partner, share those names, and then pray for them. If you haven't yet, go ahead and start praying. Father, we thank you so much for these unique friendships that you've given us. We thank you that it may be pretty likely that a lot of the names on these pieces of paper are all different than one another. I pray, Father, that you'd give us wisdom to know how to love our friends best. And you give us a heart to desire to share with them and to love them and to care for them, Father. Give us wisdom to know how to just open up communities and just be friends with them and hang out with them and open up opportunities for us to share the gospel with them. We love you, and it's in Jesus' name we pray. Something that I challenge y'all to do is to pray every day. Every day during your quiet times before you go to sleep over these 2 friends. When I was not a believer, when I was a freshman, and into my sophomore year, I think I found out my sophomore year or my junior year, we had something similar to this. We called them impact lists, and it was like a list of 3 friends, very similar, 2 or 3 friends who did not know Christ. I would find my name in my friends' like wallets, and that like really spoke to me. I don't know if your friends are gonna find their names in your wallets, but it was just really cool and encouraging for me to know that my friends were praying for me faithfully, and then I later came to know Christ, which is really cool. So God definitely wants to use prayer, and God definitely wants to mold and shape your hearts to have a heart and desire to share with your friends. So I challenge y'all to pray every day for your non-believing friends. Step number 3 is thresholds. So we're going to go over the 5 thresholds. If you flip this card over, or this booklet over, there are 5 thresholds that represent phases that God invites your friends to cross. And so I'm going to go through them pretty quickly. If y'all have any questions, feel free to ask them. And so basically, this came from a book called I Once Was Lost by Don Everett and Doug Schopp. And what he spends most of his time in the book communicating is that people just go through different thresholds or cross these few thresholds. And he says that most of them crossed all of them before they decide to follow Jesus. And so the first one is trust. Your friend may have little or no trust for Christians. So what should your next step be for that friend? Invest in your friendship and build trust with them. There are a few ways to do that. I have 5 that I grabbed from the book. And the first one is prayer. When we feel the temptation to defend, we can choose to stop and pray for those friends. Quick story. I've shared this with some of y'all. I was rock climbing. I heard this guy. I don't know. He just seemed really difficult to talk to. He was cussing a lot. I just wasn't super interested in talking to him. I didn't feel like I was being judgmental or judging him, but I look back and I'm like, I'm pretty sure I definitely was, but I just really wasn't thinking about it. I was like, I don't really want to talk to this guy. He's kind of annoying. And then I left that. His name's Sean, and I just felt so convicted, like I could be praying for this guy instead of thinking about how annoying he is. And so just prayed about reaching out to him, found him on Facebook messaged him. We exchanged a few messages. We decided to meet the next day here at the BSM. I shared my testimony with him. I asked him a little bit about his spiritual background. And then I found this, I used a Knowing God Personally booklet, that blue booklet, shared the gospel with him through that. And then he decided to follow Christ. And he works here on campus as a professor and knows Jesus, got baptized recently. Him and his wife have a child. Really cool. But when we feel the temptation to defend, we should just choose to stop and pray for them. The next step, another thing that we can do to build trust is learn. When we feel the temptation to just be bruised and feel offended, we should just choose to learn. There are so many different examples of what that could look like in our lives, but just try to learn from your friends, glean from them. If you're like, I don't understand why you don't like quality time, instead of being like, I don't know, offended by that, just sit and hang out with them, even though you don't think it's quality time. An example of that, my brother's about to come in here in a little bit, so hopefully he's not here yet. But he's super relaxed and chill, and anytime we'd spend time together, it wasn't super quality. We would just hang out, and to him, that was fine. And then I really value quality time. And I just remember in a conversation once, saying okay, can we talk about something else? And then he quickly was like, dude, I just want to chill. And I was like, okay. And then I just learned if he doesn't want to talk, I don't need to pressure him to talk about whatever. And then I've seen God just continue to work in and through our relationship. So that's been really cool. The next one is bond. This one's simple. Just do what they like to do. So find out what your friends like to do and just do it with them. Do things outside of Bible study and having spiritual conversations. Just hang out with them. The fourth one is affirm. Just affirm them. Be discerning about what you affirm. If they're cussing a lot, don't affirm them I love the way you cuss. But just be affirming of what you can be affirming of, because that is definitely a way to build trust. They might just look at you and think, this person thinks I'm all wrong. And then an example of that is Acts 17. Paul is talking to the Athenians. Some might say he was affirming, some might not, but he points out, I see that you're religious in every way. And he could have been affirming them and just noticing hey, I see that you're super religious, even though you're totally breaking the second commandment. But just look for opportunities to be affirming to your friends. And that is definitely a way to build trust. And then the last one is just welcome. Super simple. Just invite people into your own world. Invite them over to your house, to your birthday parties, to hang out with your friends. There's a large group. A lot of y'all still, a lot of people play Ultimate. There's a large group of guys when I was a student on the Ultimate team, and they would just invite them to their birthday party. So I'd see the Ultimate team there. I'm like, oh, these guys are so rough and rowdy. But it was just really cool to see my Christian friends inviting these rough and rowdy Ultimate guys into their homes and hanging out with them. And now they have these long-term relationships with them. So building trust. These are just a few different ways to do it. The next one is curiosity. Your friend has some questions about faith, but it's not personal for them. And so the next step would be to ask them questions about their views of God and spirituality. Don't get defensive or argumentative. And so the next one is open. Your friends may become aware that they have emotional or spiritual needs. They may have never consider that God can meet their personal needs. And so your next step with them would be ask them how they can grow personally. How might they think that God might help them with their growth? Offer to pray with them. And so trust, the curiosity to openness. And the next one is seeking. Your friend is open to exploring Jesus, but they don't know how to seek Jesus for answers. And so they're curious, they're exploring, they don't really understand exactly how to approach Jesus. What's your next step is to focus on their quest. If you could ask Jesus one honest question that would help you trust him, what would you ask? And the last one is follower. Your friend has been exploring Jesus. They might be ready to become followers of Jesus, which is really cool. There's a lot of people in our vertical groups that I think are between seeking and following. Some maybe have just come for the very first time. They're trying to see if they can even trust you, hang out with you. So what do you do with those people that you notice they've been coming to vertical a lot, they're studying the Bible a lot, and they're sharing a lot and contributing a lot? Your next step could be, can I share how someone can become a follower of Jesus? Share the gospel with them, invite them to put their trust in Jesus. A lot of y'all have been trained to do that and have done this before through like the 3 circles. So you can pull them aside, I don't know, maybe that night, or just ask, hey, you want to get coffee sometime? I'd love to get to know you better. It's time for you to share your testimony and say, I've been wanting to show you something. You pull out an index card or even the napkin and draw to 3 circles. And then ask them, would you like to respond by following Jesus? Is that something you're interested in? Is that something you like to do? And yeah, you can do that with them. And so let's flip this back over. And the next step is to identify where these 2 friends are. So it doesn't say that quite there, but I'd like for y'all to do that at step 2, where those 2 names are, right where you think they are. Do you think that they're trying to trust Christians, they're curious, open, seeking, or following, like ready to follow? Where would you say your friends are? Go ahead and write it beside those 2 boxes in step 2. And then when you're done with that, in step 3, I'd like for y'all to write down just the next step that y'all would like to take this week. Maybe the next step would be, I want to get coffee with this friend, or I want to ask this friend if he wants to go and work out with me. I want to invite this friend to our Bible study, or to work out, or to hang out to my birthday. What is the next step that you'd like to take with some of these friends?